those changes hard.
I started paddling canoe when I was 13.
Eyes on the flag. There it is. Yeah, Pono.
I have strong focus as we're coming into the turn. I am to just reach way out and get a bite and just kind of hold the canoe and push the water underneath the canoe. So it's a lot of muscle.
Alrighty, now we can be done.
I had spectacular teammates that helped us win the first place in our division in a koa canoe. Great way to start a day.
Pono Tuine is a dedicated veteran on a trophy-winning team.
Hey Kahi, hey Lua, hey Colin.
So was her husband Mark Tuine. In the 1990s, he was part of an offensive line that was called the Great Wall of Dallas. This Cowboys line paved the way for 3 Hall of Famers and won 3 Super Bowls. The group was so good that they're even talked about to this day.
They used to have Mark Tuine, Nate Newton, Stepnoski, Kevin Gogan, then they had Larry Allen in there, but this guy, Eric Williams, he used to scare our players and me. But they would hand the ball to Emmett behind Moose Johnson and they would grind on you. But that's what the Cowboys were when they were great.
We're coming to get you! You're gonna be today is the best day of your life. Believe it. He might be the finest quarterback produced in the last 10 years. That's all I need.
Fortunately for me, I didn't live my life. I didn't live my job. Football convinced me that life is a team game.
Rest of your life. Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it.
The Great Wall was built with unknowns and rejects. The first of them came from Hawaii. Mark Tuine was a multi-sport star at Punahou High School who gave advice to an underclassman and future president.
Even though Mark ran more with the football crowd, I think Brock looked up to Mark as a basketball player. Mark is an imposing figure. I'm sure he set some very large picks for the president.
Tuine grew up in Nanakuli, a rugged West Shore town full of gangs, poverty, and crime.
You know, Mark first had a little trouble with what we call in Hawaiian kolohe, is a rascal. Before graduation, he got in trouble and got tossed in high school.
His troubles continued in college. He was expelled from UCLA for fighting, and later suspended at the University of Hawaii.
Mark went to Waikiki apparently and got involved with beat up a tourist and robbed him. And the judge sentenced Mark 3 months in a correctional facility.
After his senior year, Tuine became a Cowboys free agent. He wore number 71 and was a defensive tackle. A long shot to make the team, buried on the depth chart behind All-Pro Randy White. Like Tuine, the other members of the Wall had their flaws. Nate Newton was overweight. Before he came to Dallas, Newton was cut by the Redskins in 1983 and then spent 2 lost years in the USFL. Mark Stepnoski was undersized, a 3rd-round guard out of Pittsburgh who would have to move to center in the NFL.
You know, we called him Dalton from that old Roadhouse movie with Patrick Swayze because, you know, they go to the 5-star and they say, oh, we thought you'd be bigger, you know.
John Giesick was unwanted, discarded by the Raiders in exchange for a mere 5th-round pick.
He started a heck of a lot of games in those Super Bowl championship teams, and wasn't the life of the party. They just, you know, there was only so many comedians to go around. He was one of the straight men in that group.
Kevin Gogan was undisciplined. A 7th-round pick from the University of Washington, determined to make the team by whatever means necessary.
I'd play beyond the whistle. I would go after you. I would try to fight you. I would get underneath your skin because I didn't have the talent of some of these other guys.
Eric Williams was an unknown, a high school defensive lineman who grew up on the streets of Philadelphia and idolized Reggie White. Unlike White, he didn't receive a single Division I offer, ending up at tiny Central State in Wilberforce, Ohio.
He realized he could put a lot of the problems that he had that made him go to Wilberforce behind him by succeeding with this group. I think it was another second chance thing for Eric.
The Great Wall of Dallas. None was drafted higher than the 3rd round. Not one is in the Hall of Fame. Talented, but troubled. Theirs was a football-like journey, unlike any other.
This is a motley crew on paper. Nate Newton is a freaking fat slob. He's not your vision of what you want. You know, Mark Stepnoski is nobody's vision of a great NFL center on paper. I don't think anyone would say Kevin Gogan was the most skilled offensive lineman in NFL history, even right in the top half, but you wouldn't want to play against him if you enjoy your fingers. Eric Williams, he really got soaked up in the Dallas nightlife. He could have been the best. Mark Tuinei, people really loved him, could never fully escape his own demons. But when you put them together, and you put them on the biggest stage in football, they were just perfect. The right unit at the right time for the right team.
I am Nate Newton, offensive guard for the Dallas Cowboys. My claim to fame, that's a lot of damn jelly.
Nate Newton has always been big.
Yeah, I was that small when I was probably about 6 months old.
And food was never far from his mind.
Every day is a holiday and every meal is a banquet, baby. Jay, can we fix up a Newton special, man? You bet.
Early in his career, he spent so much time at a local deli, they named 3 sandwiches after him.
You know, him may be a Russian leader, but I'm the eating leader.
When I first got to the Cowboys, Tex Ram told me, don't waste another day on him. He has eaten himself out of a job in the NFL.
Nate Newton was described as a little bit overweight, but he wasn't a little bit overweight. He was a lot overweight. And if the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys can outrun you, you need to get in shape.
Because I can't keep paying fine money to the Cowboys forever. I think I could have funded a third world country with all that money I lost, brother. I promise you.
He was big, and he didn't always look like the fittest guy. But, you know, if you saw Nate Newton come off the ball, you saw the defensive lineman go the other way.
Then when I was coaching the Raiders, I'll never forget Nate Newton coming off, hitting one of our linebackers, and just, oh my gosh. And Al Davis looked over to Jimmy Johnson and said, who's your left guard?
They had an assistant equipment manager named Jerry Fowler who said, if William Perry is the fridge, this guy's got to be the kitchen.
The kitchen, what a nickname, the kitchen. That's what made me, bro. That's what made me who I was, the kitchen.
And then John Madden discovered him, and then he was a celebrity.
My man Nate gets a little run at him. Anytime Nate puts that 330 pounds on you, you're going to go backwards.
He loved the fact that Nate Newton was a fat guy.
I mean, just get behind Nate. I mean, he just drops out half the field. Yeah.
He loved the fact that by the middle of the first quarter, he had a big sweat stain going down the back of his rear end.
That's Big Nate, right there. Where Nate just took his guy and just, boom, just put him right on the ground. They go, Nate, you see Nate Newton? Here's Big Nate right here.
John Madden's to blame.
And then the minute it's over, you got to pull the pants up. You always block, and then you pull up your pants.
But the outward persona of the jovial fat man hid the darker side of Newton's youth. Those who knew him at Florida A&M remember the bully more than the belly.
Just eviscerated people with that mouth of his.
I could just see you walk out of the lunchroom within 10 seconds. I done read you. And I'm all over you.
Talked about your hair, talked about your clothes. He was just relentless.
Out of all the things in life I've done, that's one of the few things I would try to take back. Because the way I treated people wasn't right.
Newton's long road to the NFL humbled him. In 1989, it was his quick feet rather than his sharp wit that caught the eye of new coach Jimmy Johnson.
All right, Nate, good quickness.
quickness there. Good quickness. All right, let's go offensive line. Knock their ass back.
Like Newton, Mark Tuinei impressed the new staff with his athleticism. He had already made the radical move from defense to offensive line. Now, it was up to him to guard the blind side of the team's new franchise quarterback.
He switches over and it just works. His anger works, his physicality works.
You couldn't move Mark. I mean, he was like a block of granite out there.
Great block by Tuinei. Troy Aikman is going to have a clean jersey today.
If you ever had to be in a dark alley and needed to get out of it, Chewy would be the guy who would want on your side.
How about it, Step? That barber still didn't find you, huh?
Rookie Mark Stepnoski was the line's free spirit. He'd have to get by on smarts and guile.
He was giving up 50 to 75 pounds on a weekly basis. He was from the University of Pittsburgh, Pitt, and Tui dubbed him Pitt for perfect and total technique. Everything about that guy was positioning, leverage. He was almost more like a wrestler. He'll take a guy, Jerome Brown or Reggie White, and just chip.
Watch him push Reggie White right out of the hole.
Move, shift. Move, shift. That guy was a freaking ballerina.
A ballerina with heavy metal hair who danced to the beat of his own drummer.
Well, I am here for this one, kind of.
It's hard to keep up with him. We'd get into politics a little bit or some kind of a conspiracy theory. He was a little bit mad at the world, but that was Steph.
What's up, Mark Stepnoski? Mark worked as hard as anybody, if not harder, in the weight room and on the field. But when he left the field, he wasn't about football. He's not wearing a Dallas Cowboys shirt to the mall.
Along with Kevin Gogan, number 66, 4 pieces of the Great Wall were in place. They would all become Pro Bowlers, but not right away. The 1989 Cowboys went 1-15.
Did you see Aikman at 89? I mean, he was a special talent. We all knew that, but not laying on his back.
Help arrived in 1990, running back Emmitt Smith in the draft, and guard John Giesick via trade. Eric Williams arrived a year later, expected to make the enormous leap from NAIA tackle to NFL starter.
It's going to be tough, but I wouldn't expect anything less than that.
In 1991, Williams and his line mates showed flashes of what they would become, but true greatness was a year away.
As we see in the NFL, it takes a while to start playing together. I think we thought we were pretty good in 91, and then we played Philly.
Thunder Rush gets away from one man, but not Clyde Simmons comes away from one man and they got him again. He's setting up and he's sacked again. They've got him.
We gave up them 11 sacks, man. He took every one of them.
You see the guy go by and you're like, throw the ball!
They are making immense speed of the Dallas offensive line.
It was a beating, there's no question. And there were a number of hits other than the sacks.
And you kind of look, because you don't know who guys hit it, and everybody kind of got their head down. It wasn't.
And it was that look of total disgust at us, and it's like, oh man.
We were so bad, Troy took so many hits because of us. You just thought the world was coming to an end.
And that was pretty much the last time that happened.
That wall. When they get you going full speed head on, you had free time in the hospital.
Nate, how you doing? I swear, there's something different this year. You're faster, you're stronger. What'd you do?
I think it's the extra weight I lost, boss.
Oh, yeah. I see it. Sure. Oh!
Jerry Jones was right. Something was different about the Great Wall in 1992.
The surge at the snap is just so violent and so much more aggressive. Think about how big our Great Wall was and how small I was. I could hide. I can get lost behind Nate. And once they got their hands on him, it was a wrap.
The Cowboys only lost 3 games that season, and Emmitt Smith led the league in rushing. America's team was back on top, and everyone, from a Saudi prince to Gary Busey, wanted to be a part of it.
Yours just kind of popped up. showing up in the locker room and sideline, and he's an interesting character.
Yay, all of them. God bless all those gentlemen. They enjoyed what I did on the screen. I enjoyed what they did on the field, so that was compatible.
And back then, he was one of the main boys. You know, every time he saw a film, he was in it somewhere or another. I'd just be amazed that he would know us.
Nate Newton used to grab me and lift me up off my feet, run me back, and smash me into a wall and say, "Welcome to the NFL." I said, "Thank you. I'm glad to be here."
They came for the triplets, Aikman, Irvin, and Smith. But it was hard to miss the Great Wall.
This offensive line of the Cowboys is manhandling that 49er defensive line.
Where would Emmitt Smith be without the lanes those guys created? Where would Troy Aikman be without the time these guys gave him? And where would Michael be without those guys giving him enough time to get open?
Look at the time Troy Aikman has to do that.
These guys would just blow people out of the way. You watch Emmitt Smith run the football, people wouldn't touch him till he was 5-6 yards down the field.
I always find his clips, for the most part, kind of boring. They're all really smooth. He's largely untouched. I think, wow, that 25-yard game, that's a thing of beauty. But to me, the thing of beauty isn't Emmitt Smith running the football. It's that big hole that's opened up in front of him.
What do you see? You saw it, Sauce. Did you see that? Yeah, I see it.
People dreaded to see that from him. Those are players that, on the other side of the ball, when you show up in Cowboy Stadium, or we show up at your stadium, you dreaming about them all week.
That's football right there. Running the ball.
They played with an attitude rarely seen on the offensive side of the ball. An aggression inspired by right tackle Eric Williams, the youngest and most terrifying of the bunch.
Whoa. When he looked at me, I froze like a pillar of salt that Lot's wife did in the Old Testament. Don't look back. Well, she did. That was Sodom and Gomorrah.
Eric was from the streets of Philadelphia, and he was a boxer when he was young, and he had a boxer's mentality.
He just hits those guys with those fists, and they go sideways all the time.
He had a club move. He had a headbutt move. Just flat out mean.
He wasn't interested in just winning on the play and blocking his guy. He absolutely wanted to demoralize him.
Somebody calm him down.
And I never saw anybody take Reggie White and throw him 5 yards back and put him on his back.
Reggie White's arguably the greatest defensive lineman ever to play. And Big E played against him when he was in Philadelphia and then in Green Bay. And Big E always held his own and sometimes even broke Reggie White's will.
Behind the scenes, the wall was more playful, led by the likes of Kevin Gogan and Mark Tuinay.
And here's Mark. After the divisional round, when San Francisco won, Jesse Sapolo said, "That's right, the road to the Super Bowl goes through Candlestick Park."
The road to Pasadena comes through Candlestick now, baby.
And we beat San Francisco. You're going to your first Super Bowl. You're achieving a childhood dream. Amid all of that, Mark Tuinay walks up to Jesse Sapolo and says, "Hey, Jesse, thanks for the directions." Afterwards, I'm like, "You're unbelievable. You thought about that before the game, didn't you?"
After their upset in San Francisco, this ragtag bunch of free agents and low draft picks found themselves on the NFL's biggest stage.
This is excellent blocking by the offensive